Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR patch notes have finally dropped, and we can see what Blizzard's been doing under the hood for this game-changing and game-revamping season of Season 4. Though I don't see any kind of seasonal mechanics yet, this is the PTR notes. It's what we get to do in the public test realm, which is available to anybody on the PC. So without further ado, let's see what they've been doing for us to enjoy with the patch. If you did not get an opportunity to check out the campfire chat, in Season 4, legendaries are changing. They're going to have 3 affixes on them, and rare items are going to have 2. And I think subsequent to this decision in Season 4, all items are tradable when they're rare, legendary, and unique, but uber uniques are not. You still have to acquire the boss mats, compete in those events to earn those rewards. I think this is a massive W for the game. It's a huge win because I, for the longest time, wanted to pay it forward by gaming with community members and just giving you like an extra item that I no longer needed. This is a huge change, a fundamental adjustment in Diablo 4. I'm glad to see it, and I hope you also feel the same way. The next point they make is that there's a smaller pool of potent affixes. So instead of getting those moments where it's like, holy crap, there's so many rares or whatever, what is all this, right? Instead of that moment, you're going to get fewer items that actually are meaningful, so you actually want to look at it and go, hey, got an upgrade. Kind of nice. So I like that that's happening in Season 4. I'm really stoked for that. That's huge. I want a loot filter when I'm playing ARPGs to tell the game what I don't care to look at and just give me the stuff that I want. Diablo 4 Season 4, they're still not adding that, but this is them giving us an opportunity to try the game the way they envision it, and I'm willing to give it a shot, even in the PTR, just to see if it's any good. Furthermore, more relevant affixes. As an example, ranks of a single core skill. So remember that legendaries are going to have 3 affixes, rares have 2. So when you find a good legendary, it could be like +4 to a skill and 2 stats that you want, like damage and attack speed or damage and life. It's that simple. And when things are that simple, that's easy to recognize, hey, that rolled well, and I think one of my friends could use it, or it's going to empower my build. Love that. That just makes the game easier to understand, more enjoyable to participate in, and helps break demons' legs even faster. Sign me up. Additionally, only sacred items are going to drop in World Tier 3 now, guys, and only ancestral items are going to appear in World Tier 4. I think that's actually fantastic. I was tired of seeing sacred gear coming from Nightmare Dungeon 100 bosses like, what is that? I'm clearing the hardest content in the game at the time, and I'm getting this gear that I'll never use. I'm glad they heard our feedback, and thank you to anybody out there that spoke on this. Now the game's leaner, cleaner, and we're getting the appropriate sorts of gear for killing the appropriate sorts of content. I think that just makes the game more fun and actually makes me appreciate killing monsters instead of just like, oh, there's some sacred stuff, not even gonna look at it. Now it's, did he drop a thing? Okay, cool. Now what is it? In the patch note, they refer to it as a miscellaneous update, but I think this is a tremendous core change to the gameplay. It says legendary items dropped from enemies level 95 plus are always item power 925. That's great. That means I can go ahead and like navigate anywhere I want with my character and enjoy my journey to get the best gear in the game. The game still caps item power of gear at 925, so that's a big win in and of itself. Salvage crafting and rewards have all been tuned. Significantly reduced item drop rates means less time sorting and more time slaying. Item rerolling cost has been capped when enchanting. Material removal and consolidation is occurring. So you're no longer going to be like weaving through pieces of gear on the floor that you're never going to use, like monster parts, things like that. That's all out of here. That's see you later. Bye. Thank you very much. Forgotten Souls can now be obtained from Whispers and are now a global rare drop from Elite. That's a big W, Mike. That's a big win because now I no longer have to just sit in Helltides. I can get that wherever I'm at. And I think that's huge. That's great quality of life. Instead of feeling like work going to do the Helltide, now I can just play the game wherever I want, and when I get them, that's good. These items are going to be required, I assume, to reroll gear, and why not make it more accessible for me to do so? Let me enjoy my character and my adventure in Sanctuary instead of forcing me to swipe in and participate in Helltides today. Like, what are we doing? No thanks. Let me play where I want to play. This makes that happen. W, check the box. Uniques appear earlier. I love this. Some uniques are now dropping in World Tier 1 and World Tier 2. All uniques can now drop in World Tier 3, and Uber uniques can start dropping from monster level 55, drops at 925 item power. That change right there is exciting in my opinion. There's always that dopamine rush, right? Whenever I was playing previous versions of Diablo, I like get this item that drops like a unique, and I'm like, oh, sick. Now I can make a build around that, right? Remember those conversations of build defining uniques, things like that? Well, I wasn't really ever feeling that dopamine, and I don't think many people were either. This speaks to that, so now we can be gaming with our friends, playing solo, whatever, trying to get levels, and bang. Now Uber unique drops. Holy crap. That is a huge player boost. I can't wait to try that out and hope it's exciting. In the campfire chat, we got an opportunity to hear one of the new systems called tempering coming to Diablo 4, like a crafting system. And in the PTR notes, they're going to sort of discuss what that is and how you can engage with it. So let's check that out. So they say that tempering is a new system that'll allow you to add affixes to your items at the blacksmith through reusable items that can drop from most content in the game called temper manuals. These are categorized like Codex of Power, for an example like resource, mobility, etc. Once gained, you retain these for unlimited use. Each manual contains a handful of affixes you're able to attach one at a time. Affixes can be re-rolled up to the item's temper re-roll limit. Ancestral items can have 2 tempered affixes from different categories. In addition to that, there is also another opportunity to gain even more player power on legendary items in the form of this thing called greater affixes. The second I heard this, I thought primals from Diablo 3, like primal items, perfectly rolled stats. But that's not exactly what it is, so here's what you're going to get with greater affixes, according to the PTR notes. Only appearing on ancestral, legendary, and unique items, these are more powerful versions of normal affixes with a 1.5x multiplier on the affix's maximum roll. An item with the greater affix will immediately be obvious to the player when a unique audio cue drops. An item with a greater affix will be immediately obvious with a unique audio cue, as well as a 1 up to a 4 next to the item's name, indicating how many affixes are actually rolled as greater. And as an example, they show you a helmet - Roman numeral 2, showing you that this would have 2 greater affixes out of 3 on that item. And if it was unique, it could have 4. Remember that legendary items are capped at 3 affixes. Each affix on an item has a chance to be greater in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. Players cannot enchant into a greater affix, they can only be found. So if one of your friends tells you, yo, Chad, I found this really slick item, and dude, the whole thing enchanted up. I went to the enchanter, and he's lying to you. This man is lying to you. He didn't find it like that. It has to be dropped. Don't lie to your friends about your gear. It's not cool. So the next crafting system we learned about in Diablo 4 Season 4 is something called Masterworking. It's an endgame system you use to push the gear that you like even further to get into harder content. And that was like the first question I had in my mind, like, what content? Because without even pushing gear, players are flying through it right now. That ends up becoming the Pit of the Artificer, or like AOZ, right? That's sort of returning to Season 4. But let's stick to Masterworking for a second. I'm going to show you in detail, based on the PTR patch notes, what this thing does and why you want to get involved with it. Masterworking improves the value of your current affixes on your gear, and it goes up to 12 ranks. Every 4th rank, a single affix is massively upgraded. Other ranks slightly increase the value of your affixes. And so we saw that in the campfire chat, right? We saw them giving us an example. I'm going to share that image with you now if you didn't get a chance to see it. On ranks 2 and 3, we see the value of the gear going up, but on the 4th rank, you can clearly see the huge update or the massively upgraded component of that piece of gear. So that's just exciting and fantastic. Glad to see, I'm so glad to see crafting coming back into Diablo because it's been gone for a while. By the way, where the hell are runes? Where are the runes at? Hell tides are reborn. They say a tide's so nice they made it twice. I gotta say that's kind of funny, but I've been doing hell tides just like you forever now. I get hell tides, but they are changing in the PTR. We're gonna experience that change. So let's go ahead and find out what they've been doing to make this even more enjoyable. It sounds kind of cool, so let me show you what that is. As you battle through hell tides, you're gonna generate threat. How much will be determined by the difficulty of the monster and how often you're securing tortured gifts within the hell tide. Dying resets your threat, by the way. There are 3 Helltide threat tiers, with each increasing the danger and frequency of monster ambushes or monster density, which is what we want. At World Tier 3, you'll become Hell-marked. Achieving the maximum threat will initiate a brief ambush of a frenzy of maximum enemy density. The ambush will end with a final Hellborn spawn, an immensely powerful agent of Hell, resurrected from the tortured souls of Sanctuary's most powerful champions. There are 5 variants representing each class in Diablo 4. Upon activating the Hellborn ambush, your threat will reset. So that, and we saw that inside of the campfire chat, right? It's almost like the Bloodborne ambushed guys. Remember those guys that would come in and like you'd have to clap them at the end of an AOZ run? That's exactly what this is. And in the video they showed, either the character was like underpowered, no hate towards Bloodshed. Guy did great with what he had. Guy did what he had to do what he had to do. Guys, he had to do what he had to do. But maybe our characters are stronger, right? So we're gonna test that. We're gonna see how strong those legs are before we snap them up. This sounds really cool. I like the idea of doing hell tides. I like the idea of more density. I like the idea of getting paid for my time in there. And I like the idea of trying to break the kneecaps of something super strong. We're gonna test what super strong means. And anyway, hell tides sounds a little bit more interesting. And we'll see. We're gonna test in the PTR. We're gonna give it a go. Endgame in Diablo 4. What is there to do? Why are we collecting player power? What's the joy of getting the great gear if there's nothing to use it on? Well, let's find out. In this PTR patch notes, they dropped the Pit of the Artificers, and I want to guide you through what they're discussing with it so we all know what to expect. When you get into World Tier 4, you get a quest to complete a Tier 46 Nightmare Dungeon. When you finish that, you can then begin to collect rune shards during endgame activities. When you collect enough rune shards, you can start to activate an obelisk in Saragar. Activating the obelisk sends you to the pit, the Artificer's Pit in this case. Your goal will be to slay enough monsters before a 10-minute timer runs out. So when you activate the pit and you start running in there, every time you die, you add 30 seconds or remove 30 seconds from the remaining time in your pit run. And so the idea is, don't die. Like, think you're playing hardcore. Just stop getting clapped and try not to lose. Every time you do, you lose 30 seconds. When you die twice, 60 seconds. You die thrice, 90 seconds, so on and so forth. If you slay enough monsters, a portal appears, taking you to the boss's arena. Killing that boss before the timer expires grants you Masterworking materials and unlocks the next tier of the pit. If you can kill the boss with 4 to 6 minutes left, it gives you an additional tier unlock. If you can clap that boss with 6 or more minutes remaining, you get 2 additional tier unlocks. The pit has hundreds of tiers of difficulty. If the mastery timer expires when you finish running the pit, you still get loot, but you do not get any Masterworking materials. And so something to remember, right? You're pushing. This is exactly like Greater Rifts in Diablo 3. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You're going to want something to do with your new gear, legendary aspects, and uniques to try. And this is a lot better than just running Legion events, Hell Tides, Nightmare Dungeons. It's a different activity to try, and you're going to want to do this because you need it for Masterworking materials. If you're feeling that ceiling, like your player power is just kind of hitting there, I guess we're going to have to run more Pits of the Artificer to get more materials to push our gear even further to enjoy these hundreds of levels or floors or rift tiers in Diablo 4. Not necessarily a bad thing because it sounds like they're kind of cool. If you got a chance to watch the campfire chat, they alluded to some really interesting sort of activities happening. So like imagine, I guess, Echo of Lilith, like a shadow of her is going to come into the fight and like slap and stuff. That sounds cool. Like Elias comes in and throws stuff down. I might just want to see if my character's strong enough to give it a go. How about you? Is it wetting your whistle? Is it getting you interested? Who knows? For me, I'd like to try it. Sounds kind of cool. According to the patch notes here, the pit can be undertaken with groups up to 4 players, with the player who opened the pit receiving the lion's share of the materials. Only the player who opened the pit has the chance of receiving the materials used for summoning tormented echoes. Boss ladder updates. Give me more knees to snap, legs to break, and demons to assault with the cool characters I want. Sounds good. So this I've been asking for a long time, and we finally get Endgame back in the game. We all caught that. That's pretty sweet. But let's learn a little bit more about it and see why we should be excited, what they're changing, and what you need to know in the PTR. The Echo of Endgame joins the ladder in our Season 4 PTR in the same bracket as her brother Duriel, with the same uber-unique drop rate. With a mix of shadow, fire, lightning, and her iconic poison attack, Endgame stands ready to face all who dare fathom her demise. Summoning parts can be acquired from Beast in the Ice and Lord Zir to summon Endgame. Tormented echoes of all ladder bosses can be summoned with Stygian stones that are obtained deep within the pit. Stygian stones are needed along with an increased amount of summoning materials, but fear not, they also drop more rewards. Tormented echoes will be level 200. All items dropped are level 925. Defeating your first tormenting echo drops 1 resplendent spark as a first time reward, which is account bound. Which I think is nice because my special number for like Uber uniques to transfer one of your Uber uniques or whatever, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 into 1, my number was 3. And so whenever they want to give us more Resplendent Sparks, that's cool. Just to throw another idea into the hat or bounce a ball off the wall, I think it would also be pretty cool if you were to reward players for killing Echo of Lilith the first time account bound just once with a Resplendent Spark. So I kill Lilith, I get one. I kill a Tormented Echo boss at level 200, I earned another one. And then all I have to do is find one more Uber unique and bang, then I can make one. I think that's kind of cool. In this case, I get to do that, sort of. I'm down. I'm getting in there. I'm going to be in the pit. Yeah, I'm going to get Stygian stones, you bet. Deep pit action. Let's see how it goes. Not to get too moist about this one, but I've been asking for this change for a while, and I'm actually getting it, and that's great for the game. It's a huge quality of life. The Codex of Power update in Diablo 4 Season 4. This should have been this way at launch, and now it doesn't matter because it's going to be going forward. And in the PTR and past, we get to appreciate it and give it a shot to see how it feels. Let me tell you what's changing with the Codex of Power in Season 4. All legendary aspects now appear in the Codex of Power, so you can focus on chasing great items instead of managing your inventory. The highest roll legendary you salvage is stored in your Codex. Legendary affix ranges increase based on the item tier, such as normal, sacred, or ancestral. Most legendary affix ranges have been increased. The user interface has been revamped and now includes manual and keyword search. And then you can also favorite legendary aspects to make them easier to find. So the idea here is like, I want to make a character, right, in Diablo today. And I put the aspect called accelerating on. So I have faster attacks. But then I say, you know what? I kind of want to try something else. Maybe I play a conjuration sorceress. And I want to have the ability to cast 2 hydras now because I want to try the build. I kind of get punished. I do get punished in Diablo 4 because that affix, I have to erode it, replace it, and then go find it again later if I don't like the build choice that I made. This Codex of Power change is tremendous for one reason, if nothing else. Inventory space. We have so much more. You can hold rare items or legendary gear that you want to use on your build for one character, another character, and another one, and you might actually have enough tabs to do it. Huge. In addition, if you wanted the accelerating now, you're not punished. You just go back, toss it back on your piece of gear, and you can try other builds at like no more detrimental experience cost. I love it. Curious to see what you think about it, because for me, this is a big one. This is a big deal. This is like, tell your friends. It's one of those. It's a tell your friends. It is. Okay, so here's the big one. Items. The reason we wake up in the morning, right? The reason we pour a fresh hot coffee and log in. The reason we can't sleep, because maybe we might get that item. Just maybe. The new items coming in Diablo 4, the patch notes PTR, they've alluded to some uber uniques here. Like we already knew about Tyrael's Might, Yen's Blessing. It's all going to be here. We're going to go through the items that you can expect to see for the classes in the game. But what I'm not going to do is go through every single sentence of every single class. I'm not going to do that to you. But what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and link this document in the description of the video. So whatever class you play, just make sure you check out this document, expand it. When you get to the 1.40 PTR build 51678, you're going to go ahead and expand this to see all of the class balancing below the items. We are going to talk about the items right now. Like right now. Let's do it. Yen's Blessing is your new unique boot. Casting a skill has a 20 to 30% chance to cast a non-mobility, non-ultimate skill that is currently on cooldown, and this effect can only occur once every 12 seconds. A new legendary aspect joining the game is going to be the aspect of Frosty Strides. So while you're below 45 to 60% life, Evade will now freeze close enemies for cold damage and apply vulnerable to them for 3 seconds. And I thought about right away, wait a sec, weren't we trying to get rid of damage on Tuesdays? This whole like close enemies again? Are we doing that? But it makes sense. If they didn't put the close enemies in there, you just evade and freeze the whole screen. Like there's got to be a radius on that, right? And so that's fine. Maybe I'm too sensitive on the close issue. Maybe or maybe not. What's more fun to use, freezing the whole screen or freezing 3 guys? Hey, it's your Wednesday. It's whatever day of the week it is for you. You have a good time. I'm not going to judge you. Didn't mean to do it. Another legendary aspect you can enjoy is the aspect of concussive strikes. The lucky hit proc damaging an enemy has up to 20% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. You deal 5 to 20% increased damage to dazed enemies. Daze is a really powerful effect in Diablo 4. Dazed enemies kind of do this, right? You hit them with the daze, they're like this. You just kind of, they don't do anything. And so daze is like, it's like perfect. It just shuts off any sort of incoming threat and lets you slap the crap out of them for now. 20% increased damage. Fantastic. Barbarian Enjoyers, a new unique item coming your way is the Ariat's Bearing, unique pants. Ancients you summon are empowered. Korlik creates an earthquake that deals physical damage over 4 seconds when he leaps. Talik leaves behind dust devils that deal damage while he whirlwinds, and Madwak ignites the ground, burning enemies for an additional damage over 4 seconds when he upheaves the ground. Twin Strikes are new unique gloves. After casting Double Swing 4 times, your next Double Swing will hit 2 additional times, dealing up to 25% increased damage. And a new legendary aspect coming your way is the aspect of Fierce Winds. Your shout skills create 5 dust devils that deal damage to enemies along their path. Your dust devils are 15% bigger and deal 1% increased damage for each 1% their size has increased, basically up to 15%. Some new druid skills. Unique items called Earthbreaker, a unique ring. Landslide causes the ground to erupt in tectonic spikes, which continue to deal some amount of damage over 2 seconds. And when you cast Landslide in that area, you have up to a 30% chance to cause an additional landslide pillars to spawn within. I really like this. I like that that's happening, but I want uniques to be even more special. When I see something like that, just a quick little editor's note here, I'm not excited about that. I want 100%. I want this to be chase. Like when I do that, this thing happens. That makes me want to go for an item like that. Instead of, I've got the item and sometimes it happens, I want uniques to always be doing that thing. And that's where that power is, you know? How do you feel about that? Like, do you feel the same way? This idea of proccing special things, the special moment is I got the item. Now let me enjoy the game for the rest of forever while I've got it. Just my feeling. Wildheart Hunger is another unique item. It's a unique boot. When you shapeshift into a werewolf or a werebear, you gain Wildheart for 5 seconds. Wildheart grants you 1% to 1.5% increased damage with shapeshifting skills every 2 seconds. That stacks 20 times. So that basically gives you 30%. A new legendary aspect is the aspect of Fevered Mauling. When you hit at least one enemy with Maul, increase its attack speed by 1 to 2%, and you gain 3% damage reduction for 5 seconds, and that stacks 5 times. All new Necromancer items joining the game is going to be Ebon Piercer. It's a unique amulet. Blight now also shoots 4 smaller projectiles that pierce enemies and deal shadow damage over 3 seconds. The Curer's Embrace are new unique gloves. It says Blood Surge consumes corpses to cause mini novas, dealing damage. Damage is increased by 10% per target drained by the initial cast, up to 50%. Damage is also increased by 20% for each corpse consumed. And a new legendary aspect for the Necromancer is the Aphotic aspect. Your skeletal priests empower your skeletal warriors' attacks to deal shadow damage and have up to a 15% chance to stun enemies for 1.5 seconds. The new rogue unique items are both rings. The first is the Scoundrel's Kiss. Rapid fire now lobs exploding arrows that deal 25% increased damage. Saboteur's Signet. Casting Flurry has a 30% chance to release stun grenades that deal physical damage and stun enemies for 1 second. And your grenade skills have a lucky hit chance of 5%. Something I want to touch on. We saw in the campfire chat previously, if you noted, they're increasing like grenade skills. So this sounds like probably the go-to nade ring. Like if you're going to pull the pin and head out, you probably want this ring. It just makes sense, right? It just seems to make sense and correlates with a lot of the decisions for the grenade build for the rogue. So check that one out if you're interested in that gameplay. Could be sweet. A new aspect for the rogue is called the aspect of high velocity. Barrage arrows now pierce through one enemy, and Barrage has a 20% increased attack speed. 2 new unique items coming to the Sorceress is the Fractured Winterglass unique amulet. We all caught this during the campfire chat. Casting Frozen Orb has a 50% chance to spawn a random conjuration when it explodes. And a lucky hit proc says your conjurations have up to a 100% chance to launch a Frozen Orb at nearby enemies. The Flame Weaver unique gloves are new to the game. Casting Firebolt through your firewall causes it to split into 4 bolts, each dealing up to 100% more damage. A new legendary aspect for the Sorceress is called the aspect of Tenuous Destruction. You're going to deal 40% increased damage while you have no defensive skills on your action bar. Finally, we have the Flamethrower's aspect. Incinerate splits into 3 beams, each dealing up to 85% of normal damage. I gotta tell you, like, they're pushing Incinerate. They want you to have that Harry Potter moment where you got the wand out, right, and you're just sending a love beam straight into everything, right? I like that they're trying. Maybe I'll give it a go. But I don't think so, because conjurations just seem absolutely insane. Like, hey, anybody out there that wants to be a living flamethrower in Sanctuary, now is your chance. Give it a go and tell us how it is. I don't mean to, like, besmirch or make less of your build, but hey, this is the time to try it. It's a PTR. And then past all that is a bunch of balancing updates, which is something you really should review if you're going to give Diablo 4 Season 4 a shot. In particular, the PTR experience. Give it a go. There's tons of stuff to check out. Am I hyped for this? I think it's good. I think the game is going in a good direction. I think we all kind of feel like that. I think anybody that bought the game, you deserve to get your money's worth. And to be honest, the game wasn't really in a position that made you feel like it was a polished game. But the one thing that's been consistent is it's getting the attention of the devs, and they're making some pretty consistent updates to try and make this the best Diablo that it can be. While this is happening, I'm happy to see it. I'm going to be enjoying it, and I'm also going to be checking out the Path of Exile League on Twitch. I'm going to be live streaming it. You're more than welcome to get involved. The Necropolis League seems really cool, and I'm also going to be playing Path of Exile too. But we all win when we all have multiple games to enjoy. Like, you bought it, right? You own it. Play it if you want to, don't if you don't. It's cool that we have different options of ARPGs to enjoy. I'm going to leave you guys with this video. Again, check the description to see all the patch notes to make sure you're up to date. If you ever want to discuss it, I'm live 4 days a week on Twitch, twitch.tv/barricade. You're more than welcome to hang out. There's plenty of great people there. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for checking out the YouTube channel. I appreciate it a lot. And I hope you guys slay a lot of demons in the PTR and have nothing but good things to say. And if you don't have good things to say, if you got bad things to say, type that in the forum where it belongs so it goes to the eyes of the people that can make this decisions and differences in the game so we could all enjoy it even more. Much love to all you guys. Have a great time. See you in the next one.